Tan Songyun and Sukai, airport farewell sparks entertainment frenzy. No one expected the farewell to become the defining moment of their year, yet as dawn slowly crawled across the sky and the first wave of passengers filtered through the sliding airport doors, the question that hung over the entire terminal unspoken but unmistakable was why Tan Songyun's departure felt less like a routine trip and more like the breaking point of a story that had been quietly building for months. Reporters had sensed that something monumental was unfolding long before the fans did, long before Sukai drove into the drop-off lane with headlights cutting through the early morning fog, long before Tan Songyun stepped out with that faint, conflicted smile that exposed more emotion than words ever could. Hold on tight, C-drama family. The world of your favorite celebrities is unfolding before your eyes, and every moment is more breathtaking than the last. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. The frenzy began the moment the couple appeared together. Passengers froze mid-stride, airport staff exchanged stunned looks, and the small crowd waiting near the check-in counters erupted into hushed whispers that rapidly swelled into a tidal wave of speculation. It wasn't just that they arrived in the same car. It wasn't just the closeness of their steps or the way their eyes kept meeting as though neither wanted to lose sight of the other. What truly ignited the storm was the atmosphere thick, loaded, humming with the unmistakable energy of two people fighting emotions too strong to contain. Tan Songyun walked with a controlled grace, her suitcase rolling smoothly behind her, but the tension in her shoulders betrayed the weight she carried that morning. It wasn't the weight of celebrity pressure or a demanding schedule. It was the heaviness of leaving someone behind, someone who had become a quiet constant in her life, someone she had begun to trust in ways she had never allowed herself to before. Sukai followed slightly behind, not out of formality but as though trying to prolong these last few seconds, each step slow and deliberate, as if time might show mercy if he moved gently enough. The cameras that later surfaced didn't capture the full truth. They showed quick glances, soft smiles, a brief touch of hands, but what they missed was the silent conversation happening between them, the unspoken plea in her eyes as she turned toward the check-in gate, the subtle tightening of his jaw as he fought the instinct to pull her back. He had faced battlefield-themed dramas, action roles, fierce competition, and relentless scrutiny, yet nothing rattled him as much as the sight of her leaving. When they reached the final point before security, an invisible barrier seemed to rise between them. It wasn't the metal detectors or the uniformed officers. It was the undeniable reality that once she stepped beyond that line, he would be left behind with nothing but the echo of her footsteps fading into the distance. She paused, not long, not dramatically, but enough to shift the emotional currents around them. Enough for every fan watching to feel the ache bloom in their own chests. Her voice, quiet yet steady, carried a softness he rarely heard from her in public. She told him she wouldn't be gone long, that it was only one day, that everything would be fine. Yet the tremor beneath her words told a different story, one of longing, hesitation, and the heavy awareness that even a short departure can feel unbearable when it separates hearts that have grown intertwined. Sukai nodded with a controlled calmness that required every ounce of his strength. His expression remained gentle, composed, but his eyes betrayed the storm swirling beneath the surface. He reminded her to text him upon landing, to stay warm, to rest, to remember not to overwork herself. To anyone else it sounded like simple concern, but to those who had been watching them closely, it was a confession, a quiet declaration woven through practical care. Then came the moment that cracked the internet. She shifted closer, her voice dropping to a whisper only he could hear. Reporters strained to read her lips, fans enhanced videos, countless theories emerged, but no one could confirm what she said. What they did capture was his reaction, the way his expression softened, the way his breath caught, the way his eyes lowered as if he needed a second to steady himself before she walked away. That single moment, fleeting yet piercing, became the catalyst for the viral frenzy that swept across social media within minutes. But the real heartbreak came next. As she stepped into the security line, she turned back not once, but twice. The second time, her gaze lingered, as though committing him to memory. It was then that Sukai finally let the truth flicker across his face. Without moving, without speaking, without drawing attention to himself, he mouthed a quiet message meant only for her. Fans would never know what those words were, but Tan Songyun's small, trembling smile said everything. After she disappeared from sight, the airport fell into a strange silence. The crowd that had been buzzing with excitement now stood still, almost reverent, as Sukai remained rooted to the floor, staring at the empty space where she had just been. He didn't rush back to the car. He didn't hide. He simply breathed, deeply and shakily, as if trying to pull himself back together after letting a piece of himself walk through those gates. Security eventually approached, asking gently if he needed assistance, but he shook his head and thanked them with the kind of polite warmth he always carried, even in vulnerable moments. Slowly, he walked back through the terminal, ignoring the flashing cameras, the whispered questions, the eager fans calling his name. For once, none of that mattered. His world had just walked onto a plane, and all he could do now was wait. What happened next once he reached the parking lot, once he sat behind the wheel, once the door closed and the outside noise faded remains unknown. But insiders would later reveal that he stayed in his car for nearly 15 minutes, unmoving, lost in thought, overwhelmed by emotions he could no longer deny. And so the frenzy continued to swell, because everyone watching knew that this was no ordinary farewell. This was a moment of truth, raw and unguarded, a moment that revealed what words could not. The world never expected their airport farewell to erupt into something this massive, but the truth is that the whirlwind had only begun the moment Tan Songyun stepped beyond the last security gate, leaving Sukai standing on the other side of the glass wall, watching her silhouette fade into the warm glow of the terminal lights, his expression raw, unguarded, and far too emotional for a man who had spent years mastering the art of privacy. What followed in the next hour, the next morning, and the next 24 hours became the very foundation of a global frenzy, because the cameras that had recorded that final moment caught something far more profound than a celebrity goodbye. They captured the unraveling of a relationship the public had long suspected but never truly seen this clearly until now. The footage replayed endlessly on every platform. Sukai stepping forward when she turned away. His hand lifting as if he wanted to call her back but found no voice. His jaw tightening when she disappeared into the jet bridge. That moment, that half-second hesitation, became the symbol of an emotional storm no PR team could control. Fans slowed down the video, zoomed in, enhanced the image, and then the wild theories began pouring like rain. Some insisted he looked heartbroken. Others said he appeared protective, conflicted, overwhelmed. But the truth, the one that cannot be seen with the naked eye, unfolded only minutes later, when the cameras finally lost sight of him, and Sukai walked back into the private corridor, where the noise faded and the reality hit him with a force he did not expect. His manager caught up with him first, breathless, frustrated, and already answering urgent calls from producers who wanted explanations for Sukai's sudden change of schedule. But no amount of questioning could pull him back into work mode. He stood still, staring at the empty hallway, as if he had left a part of himself behind when Tan Songyun boarded that plane. It was only when his manager gently placed a hand on his shoulder that he blinked, the spell breaking just enough for him to exhale the breath he had been holding since she walked away. This was not a typical goodbye. It was not the kind exchanged between co-stars, or between friends, or between people who simply happened to share a van or a schedule. This farewell carried weight, the weight of something unsaid, unresolved, something private yet powerful enough that even strangers watching through glitchy airport footage felt the tension as if they were standing beside him. Minutes later, his phone buzzed. A message from her. She had just taken her seat on the plane, and although her tone was calm, the words carried a tenderness that the world would never hear. She thanked him for insisting on driving her, even when she said she could go alone. She apologized for leaving so quickly, worried that the crowd had startled him more than it startled her. She told him everything would be fine, that it was only 24 hours, that she would return before he even had time to miss her. But he already did. It showed in the way he typed, paused, erased, rewrote, and finally sent a simple message that carried far deeper meaning than the words aloud. He told her to rest, to stay safe, and to message him when she landed. He said he would stay awake until then, even though it was almost dawn. He ended the message with a quiet reassurance, one he rarely expressed out loud. He told her that the hardest part of this entire decision was letting her go, even for one day. Meanwhile, outside the airport, the media storm intensified. Reporters pieced together her sudden departure with astonishing speed, analyzing her flight route, her schedule, and even her outfit, trying to find clues as to why she had left the country so abruptly. Some claimed she was filming a secret cameo. Others believed she was attending a private family matter. But the theory that caused the biggest explosion was the one that tied her departure directly to Sukai. That final look he gave her. The urgency in his steps. The tremor in his voice when he said goodbye. Fans framed the moment, posted it, shared it, and within hours, the entire narrative grew into something unstoppable. They said this was not coincidence. They said this was not casual. They said this was love finally showing itself, not through words or contracts or interviews, but through the kind of goodbye people do not fake.